Hey,
Hello, everybody.
real quick, you want to, instead of doing it at the very end, you want to promote your YouTube page at the beginning of the video?
Well, I'm Gino Reynolds. I review movies for The Real Gino on YouTube. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hope you like my stuff.
You are probably the only person in the country who has seen this movie twice.
Yeah, I got to see it. I think it was like 3 weeks early in St. Louis. And while I thought the movie's okay, seeing it twice probably didn't need to.
I was surprised when you said you want to see it again, because when I wrote to you, I was like, oh, we're planning on seeing the movie at 3:30. I know you've already seen it. If you want to meet us here when the movie is over and we shoot the shit about it, and you're like, oh, I'll go see it again. I'm like, well, I guess he didn't hate it then. Otherwise, damn.
I think it was more for a refresher because it's been so long since I seen it, and I reviewed it. I was like 2 weeks ago or something like that.
This is a movie where, honestly, I feel like I need 3 weeks to fully really talk about this thing.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of reasons... I'll get into the positives first. For a lot of reasons, I was really rooting for this movie. I do kind of like this kind of film.
Me too.
And it's a good-looking movie, and it's been 15 years since Warren Beatty has been in a film. It's been since Town and Country, and it's been since Bulworth, I think, that he's directed anything. So it was cool seeing him back on the big screen again. It was
most definitely.
Yeah, it was really cool seeing a Warren Beatty film. And also in the fact that this movie didn't do very well.
No.
I believe it set the record for lowest opening weekend on Thanksgiving weekend and 6th lowest opening for something opening in like 2,000 theaters. So I like rooting for the underdog in that sense.
Course.
You want something like that to be really, really good. This movie, it definitely feels like, had this movie been made 15, 20, 30 or more years ago, and honestly even back in like the New Hollywood era, and with a couple solid rewrites on it, it would have, I think it would have done perfectly fine.
Yeah. See, my problem with this movie is I liked it at first.
Yeah.
And we'll get into what happened here a little bit. And I told you before I saw it again, there was one point in the movie where it started to lose me.
Was it
It was right after, do you want to talk about the...
oh, we can spoil it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's basically this, it's kind of a love story.
Yeah.
And then it kind of turns into not a love triangle, but something like that. I don't know if you want to call it that.
I don't even know if you would call it that. This movie is weird. Like, it feels weird. It feels like another movie crashed into it about halfway through.
Well, the biggest problem I had is the first time, if you see the trailer for this movie, it looks like a rom-com.
No, it does.
Like a 1960s Hollywood rom-com. And I honestly was really excited for it because it just looked like it was going to be really entertaining. At first it kind of was.
No, totally.
The love story, they don't put a lot into it, but you're buying it, especially the main girl is a songwriter and she writes the guy a song. And then it gets weird.
And then it does. And you're right about the first part of this movie being the best part, because you're getting what was sold to you, which is that it's like The Aviator meets IQ.
Yeah.
Like, or a little Hail Caesar thrown in there. Like, so at first I was digging it because it the whole movie feels like the kind of movie you really don't get that much anymore. And that was cool, that it felt, a little old school in a lot of areas. And I do like movies that are about how really fucked up and scary old Hollywood is.
Yeah.
I do like movies like that. And this movie did an okay job with that, certainly. And what starts out as like this pretty good love story between a couple of characters, the acting is all around solid in this film.
Yeah, one thing I said in my first review was it's one of the most disappointing, best acted movies I've seen this year.
Totally. I'm like, well, okay, I'll touch upon my next thought in a second. Because halfway through this movie, it gets to a point where it's sort of like, I don't know why this started out as a love story, because about halfway through, it just straight up turns into a Howard Hughes biopic.
Exactly. I said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You wonder why the love story is there.
Yeah.
See, what I realize is, halfway through the movie, there's a moment, they have a moment, a very, very weird moment, and then that leads the girl to run away from the guy and thinking she's a floozy and all this, and she ends up...
She all but disappears from the film.
Yeah, she gets drunk, has sex with Howard Hughes.
Yeah.
And then pretty much all but disappears from the movie.
Except at the end. She comes back at the end.
They show her a couple times throughout this whole Howard Hughes part. Howard Hughes basically world hopping. And what I thought they were doing, I know what they were trying to do, at least I think so, is, the movie starts getting really choppy in its editing.
Honestly, even in the first part it was.
Yeah, and I noticed that on the second viewing.
Yeah.
But it was like all of a sudden it's about Howard Hughes. Oh, we got to go to this place. Now we're going to go to this place and this place. And they're jumping all over. And there's stuff about ice cream and all sorts of weird stuff. And I know what they were doing. They were trying to show his mind deconstructing and how in the editing was supposed to kind of show that along with what he was doing. Now, I think that's what they were trying to do. I'm not saying it worked. I think that's what they were trying.
What it felt like to me was because the editing to me felt a little choppy even before he shows up in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, there are scenes in this movie that just end.
Yeah.
There are scenes that are short, that are maybe only like 30 seconds long, contain a few lines of dialogue, and they just end to where it feels like, I don't know why that scene was there. And it felt like the kind of choppy editing you see when they're trying to get this movie down to about 2 hours.
Yeah, and it was still over 2 hours.
A little. It was 2 hours. It was like 2:07.
Yeah, 2:07.
It was like 2:07. So it wasn't long, but there is definitely a cut of this movie that's probably like 4 hours long.
You know, and I don't think I noticed the choppiness the first time because I was actually kind of buying the story. It was a little cheesy, a little cute, but the old Hollywood stuff was keeping me involved.
Yeah.
I love the thing where they're paying him by dropping their paychecks out of a window
that was cool.
on a fishing line.
Yeah,
and
I liked...
There's all sorts of little cool things like that. The way the actresses talk. They're talking about, oh, he has this many houses. No, he has this many houses. And they're like, wait, no, he has that many houses?
No, it didn't.
They were surprised how many women he actually had in
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And when it's showing Warren Beatty, like young pictures of Warren Beatty with a bunch of different actresses, I'm like, I'm not seeing Howard Hughes in these young photos. I'm seeing Warren Beatty sleeping with a bunch of actresses back in the day.
So is this a Warren Beatty biopic?
You know what? Like, in this movie, I was like, I can see why he wanted to do this.
Yeah,
and it got to a point, like, he is great in this film.
Very, very good.
It's like, it was like this... The Aviator is a far better fucking movie than this, but I think he's the better Howard Hughes, honestly.
Yeah.
He really did feel like Howard... He really brought forth the quirkiness, the mystery around Howard Hughes. He does a great job at that. And when he's only kind of treated as this mysterious figure who comes in every now and then, sits down in dark rooms, I honestly thought that was gonna be most of his role in the movie, and I would have preferred that, because when it gets into him in the body cast after the crash, and it's quirky and trying to be funny, it felt like watching a community theater reinterpretation of The Aviator, and then it just straight up gets to be about him, so it felt like he's really gunning for like a Best Supporting Actor nomination, to the point to where he just straight up becomes the main character in this film.
And that's where it lost me, because you were saying they didn't show the girl. You know, she has sex once in this movie and gets pregnant with Howard Hughes' baby.
Yeah.
And you see her, she's going to talk to a doctor about an abortion. She talks to her mom about it. And then she disappears until the very end. And then what's funny is the movie decides, oh, we're done being a Howard Hughes biopic. Let's strike up the love story again.
In the last 5 minutes, and don't get me wrong, it was a great ending.
Yeah, and so I love the ending.
So did I, because the ending goes back to what the movie started out as.
And it probably should have stayed.
And should have stayed. And admittedly, the scene where he's crazy and flying around in an airplane with poor dude in the back.
That's funny.
That was scary. That was scary. I'm like, my worst nightmare. It's come to life. But again, it was a scene that just ended.
Yeah.
That scene just ends.
He's flying this plane. He's got the British guy. They're in London, I think.
Yeah.
And he's got the British guy, the co-pilot or whatever you want to call him, the pilot watching him. And I call him the new Han Solo. I can't ever remember the guy's name.
Alan Einrich,
Something like that.
I need to I need to really remember his name because he's probably one of my favorite new actors out there right now. This guy is great. Like, he's the best part of Hail Caesar. He is fantastic in this movie. Yeah. He reminds me of a young Tom Hanks, honestly. He really does. Like, I can't wait to see other movies that this guy does, because he's, as many issues as I have with this film, he is so not one of them.
No, he's definitely great.
In fact, he's so good in this movie, it's more frustrating that his story in the movie is sidetracked for about half of it for another Howard Hughes movie.
Yeah, and see, it felt like two movies.
No, absolutely it did.
And it drives me nuts because the first time I watched it, like I said, I was invested. And like I said, the love story isn't well developed. But for what it is, it's okay.
It could have been well developed if it was the length of
if they would have took the whole movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it turned into Howard Hughes. But we were talking about the plane. You know, he's flying his plane. You're talking it ends real abrupt. He's flying a plane. He's singing a song. He turns off the engines.
Yeah.
And he's flying, and they're going back and forth, and he's telling stories, and then they're in a whole nother place. And no context after that.
Yeah, and again, I'm like, boy, he is gunning for a Best Supporting Actor nod for this. And don't get me wrong, he's great in this movie. He really is. Warren Beatty is.
Definitely welcome back.
Yeah, it is. He's having a blast in this movie. You can tell he's having fun making it. You can tell this was probably a passion project for him. Definitely. But I don't know. It just needed a lot more focus, or at least a focus on one thing over the other. If there is a Howard Hughes related story that I'd like to see on screen, it would be the making of The Conqueror. Whenever he was sitting like in an empty theater in this movie, and was like, and would always put on something on the projector or something in his own movie theater, I was waiting for it to be The Conqueror, because he did get obsessed with that movie.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, those parts are weird, because there would be times he'd just be watching his movie, and it's just in the background. You've got scenes of war, and a girl's playing a song, and it's just kind of weird. She's playing this nice, lovely song to him.
I liked that. And it's Hell's Angels.
There's a bunch of crashes and stuff in the background.
Yeah, it's a good looking movie. The only thing about how it was made that I thought was a little distracting was I did really love the old establishing shots that they used in it. It looks like they use a lot of like old stock footage. Is like, you know, when they're driving through Los Angeles, or the establishing shots in like Vegas, Morocco, all those places. But those shots are very grainy. They look like they're about 50 years old. And the rest of the movie isn't.
Yeah, it's real clean.
Yeah, the rest of the movie more or less has the visual quality of something you'd see now. More or less. But if the whole movie had maybe kind of matched its footage to how those establishing shots looked, that would have actually been really unique and kind of cool.
Yeah, I use stuff like Argo as an example.
Yeah.
Where they kind of filter the camera, and it kind of looks like you're looking at something from that time period. Yeah. And this movie needed to do that. It would have worked way better.
If it was going to use those establishing shots, then yeah, totally. Because every time those establishing shots popped up, as cool as they were, and as pretty as they were to look at, it was distracting, because I was always instantly reminded that it was stock footage, because it looks that much different. And if it isn't stock footage and they did just add something to it, then I don't know why.
Yeah, that's just it. Why would you do that?
Yeah, given this is the budget of this movie was, I think, in the 20, 30 range or something like that. I'm guessing it's stock footage, because I would think if they were recreating that stuff, that would have heightened the budget like fucking mad.
Yeah, just a little bit.
That's just a guess.
Yeah.
God, is there anything else about this movie? I mean, it was a weird sit to me. It was a really weird sit.
Yeah, you know, seeing it the second time, I found myself liking things I didn't like the first time, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And it's definitely two different movies. If it would have been Warren Beatty's biopic of Howard Hughes, it probably would have been really good.
Yeah.
If it was just a love story and Howard Hughes is a shadowy figure, like you said, it would have probably been really good and the better movie.
Yeah, it would have been better than just a straight up Howard Hughes biopic too, because not that if this was just a straight up Howard Hughes biopic, not that that would have been bad, but we've seen that with the, was it even 10 years ago that The Aviator
Something
came out?
like that, yeah.
So I would have preferred more so the love story and him just kind of this mysterious figure who comes in and out of it, because I could see greatness in this movie, but as it is, it's fine.
Yeah, the second she sings him the song, I was invested in the love story. And then they kick your ass out of it.
Yeah.
And like I said, she disappears. So they kick you out of it. See, the way they end it is, and I have to say it, they're fooling around, and I don't know if you just want to call it, they weren't even heavy petting. And he comes in his pants.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny, you know?
Turns into a Farrelly Brothers movie for like a minute.
I mean, he looks up, there's a stain, it's kind of funny, but it didn't fit.
No.
Because Matthew Broderick's character, who's another driver.
He was great.
Yeah, he was really good. I loved it when he snapped.
I did too.
That was the best part.
That was also...
it's my fucking job.
Yeah. That was also one of Frank's best moments in the movie too, because he finally tells Howard what he needs to hear at that point in the movie too.
But yeah, there's the scene. The other driver shows up, and even if they just would have gotten caught or almost caught, it would have worked better. But no, he has to worry about getting a stain out of his pants and not letting the other guy see the stain, and then that leads to the drunken sex and all that, and it just got weird.
Yeah, and they build up too how the drivers aren't supposed to sleep with the actresses and things like that, and because this whole thing is dropped, that goes nowhere.
Oh, they tell you that the whole movie. By the way, did you know that contracted actresses can't have sex with, or can't be with anybody that he's employed with?
Yeah.
And they tell you that, 5-6 times at least?
Uh-huh.
And it kind of gets old. The exposition at the first kind of got old.
Yeah.
but yeah, it was unfocused. That's the problem.
No, I agree.
The movie's unfocused. It should have been two different movies. If Warren Beatty wanted to be in both of them as Howard Hughes, fine.
Then, yeah, fuck. He is great.
The acting's good. It's a beautiful movie, except for when it kind of jumps to HD, you know, in the regular scenes, but it still looks good. You know, they got the old cars and everything else, the clothing, the acting, everything's really good. But it's hard to recommend because it's so messy.
The movie's fine. Like, it's not the kind of movie where I would say, like, oh, skip it entirely. Like, if you're gonna see it, I would recommend it as, like, a
matinee or a rental?
A rental, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know if this needs to be seen in the theater. There are some movies where I'm
For
like...
the stock footage, maybe.
Sure.
That would be it, maybe.
I think that you could get equal amounts of satisfaction whether you're paying about $5 to see this in the theater or if you just rent it.
Yeah.
Either one of those, honestly, you'll probably feel the same because it's really not that much difference in money. If you see it in the theater on a matinee, I don't think you'll be pissed, like, when you get out of it. But, I mean, it's nothing to rush out to see.
No,
I mean, unless you really just want to see Warren Beatty in a movie again, and I totally get that. That's
definitely
why I was looking forward to it, honestly. So, in that regard, like, yeah, it's cool to go to the theater and see a new Warren Beatty movie, but it's not one of his best.
No, definitely not. I'd rather watch something like Dick Tracy again.
Hell yeah.
I gotta give
water mumbles.
I gotta give a recommendation. Don't see it twice.
Again, I'm pretty sure you're the only person in the country who's seen it, unless it's another movie critic. I mean, that does happen.
Yeah.
You know, they do. I see that all the time where they go see something for refreshers before they write their reviews.
I thought I was the only sucker.
Let's see. I gotta just hang out till Incarnate starts.
The WWE produced.
So
Incarnate.
sweet. Awesome. I'll bet you it'll be the same movie.
You know, I gotta say, though, hopefully it's better than the last time Aaron Eckhart fought demons.
What, I, Frankenstein?
I, Frankenstein?
I missed that. I was at...
You didn't miss it.
Oh, man, I was at the nut job that night, so I think we all lost.
My kids have made me watch the nut job
a couple
times.
Well, there's a second one coming out.
I know. and they know.